So if you have a toddler, have you ever had to deal with biting? I know that I have, and it is one of these things that you just gets you very embarrassed sometimes. I'm joined now by Shelley and Kate from Sunbeams Day Nursery. Noah, thankfully, hasn't done it for a long time. We've managed to get through it, but just to give you a brief kind of example of what Noah went through, he started to, mainly when he was really tired, start biting. Or if we were playing or cuddling or play fighting, he would nip you, or he would go to bite your shoulder or on your arm. And my fear would be that I have my mum come and look after him, and his other nan as well, for him biting them and all this sort of thing. So it is something that's a real worry. And I know Noah's been bitten by a friend of his before. You kind of think, how do I handle this situation? How do I talk to their parent, and their parent's mortified, and all this sort of thing. So we're going to have a look at this today, aren't we? Have a look into biting in toddlers. So where do we start?
Well, the first thing, as managing director of Sunbeams and across all our sites, most parents, if they walk into the nursery and either their child has been bitten or their child has bitten another one, parents are absolutely devastated. They're really upset, and what we've got to say is, it's a very common occurrence, and there's a reason for that. So we'll talk about why do children bite, and we'll talk about 10 tips again, how you can handle the situation, and hopefully reassure parents about not to worry. And certainly at Sunbeams we spend quite a bit of time talking to parents around that.
I can imagine you have to deal with it quite a lot, with a lot of children on your sites as well.
I think really, I would say less, because we've kind of become quite, I would say this, but expert in dealing with this situation and preventing it happening. Because it can be prevented, and that's the most important. So
why do children bite? I kind of knew it would happen with Noah, and I was waiting for it to happen.
Really?
I don't know. I just having seen other children who friends whose children had grown up slightly before Noah and watched what they went through, and I was like, right, I'm going to make sure I do this. I was sort of expecting it, but why? Why does it happen?
The first thing to say is a quarter of all children will bite at some time. So it is a common occurrence, but only a quarter. So not every child will bite. That's the most thing. And it is a difficult time for parents. First of all, you've kind of got to avoid labelling your child as a biter as well if it's happened, because children, can then kind of identify with that. So that's the important
I'm a biter,
thing.
so I better bite somebody.
So there's just a couple of things about general biting, but why do children bite? Well, it's key to really beating the problem is actually understanding why they're biting. So it can occur out of frustration. It can be a way of communication. It can be because they're teething. It can happen for many reasons. So it's actually, I'm just going to talk about those reasons. Point one is it can be a way for toddlers, and that's usually the age we're looking at here, of expressing emotion. So that's the first one. They really have intense feelings, and they don't always know how to show them. So biting can be a way of expressing their feelings. So that's number one. Number two can be a lack of language skills. Again, don't forget at this age they're developing their language, which we've talked about before. And it can be a message to other children, quite a clear message.
Don't come near me.
The third one is experimenting. So toddlers learn how their body works, and they can put things in their mouths, and they can also nip, which you actually said Noah nipped.
Yes,
so that's quite interesting.
It never used to physically bite. It was more of a nipping on the skin.
And they can physically nip with their fingers as well. They can grip you there. So
they use mouths as very sensory, don't they, at an early age? So it's
if you think about from when they're born, breastfeeding, their mouth is the most sensory organ, and that can carry over sometimes into being a toddler. So and that's why for health and safety, children will put things to their mouth. So the mouth is the most sensory things that they've got. So that's an important thing. The third one is experimenting. We talked about experimenting and learning about the body. And the fourth one is defending. So young children can learn to bite as a way of defending themselves.
This is my toy.
Yeah.
And if you feel anxious or threatened, that can be a way.
Can do it as well.
If somebody invades their space and they don't know how to react,
go straight into the bite.
Yeah. It can be a way of controlling. So some children know that biting is a way of getting what they want, and they get attention from that, even if it's negative. So, you know, it can be a controlling mechanism. The next one is frustration or irritation. So it wants a toy, which we've talked about. It can be frustrated if it can't get it. It can't express that. Often with the language, it links with the language. So, you know, if they bite, then, you know, they've got the attention there, and they can then cope with the situation. It can be overstimulation as well. The environment may be too much for the child to cope with, and Sunbeams, you know, we look at all these things. Bright lights, big noises, it might be overstimulation for the child.
That's something you can quite easily forget about. You don't really assume that you can overstimulate, but obviously...
Oh, yes, you can. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And at Sunbeams, actually, we've changed our approach to the environment. I think when we first started out in the industry many years ago, I would say we did have very stimulating environments.
Yeah.
They've changed now. Our environments are a lot softer. They're a lot like the home environment. They're very, you know, and we are aware of overstimulating children with bright lights, lots of colours, and, you know, so it's more a neutral, natural environment now. So, you know, I think that's through research, and that the environment can be overstimulating for children, and that's important. And the last one, which we mentioned before, is teething. So they can bite something in order to relieve, you know, to gnaw on something when they've got pain in their mouth. So those are my top tips.
Makes me want to give them a cuddle.
Yes.
Come here, let's cuddle.
Yeah.
So what are the top tips then that you've got then, Shelley?
So this
is more to do. So what you can do to prevent biting.
Yes.
So the most important thing, and what we do at Sunbeams, is we try to identify if there's a trigger. There's often 9 times out of 10 there's always a situation that leads to the biting. And that's what we look for. So watch your child closely. There's warning signs usually before the biting. They could be crying, yelling, the foot stamping, lunging towards you or towards another child. So especially if you know your child is going through that phase of wanting to bite or biting, then try and watch them closely in any sort of situation. So if you're taking them out to a children's play area and you think, you know, you can see another little one playing with them balls and your little one's eyeing them up, it's just intervening in that situation first, going in, oh, should we get you some of them balls then? And giving them, you know, you can see what they want, but they can't express that they want that, and they're going to get it however they want it.
Rather than letting the situation unfold.
Try and step in beforehand. So what we do at Sunbeams is we look at what's leading up to the bite. So what happened right before the bite? Who was the child playing with? And again, if it's sometimes it can be they're going for the same child every time. And why is that? Is it because the other child's younger than them and they can do it, or is it because that child's always the one that's taking what they want and invading the space? You've got to look at everything surrounding it. Looking at who was bit, is it the same child again or different child every time? If it's a different child every time, then again it's looking at the other reasons that we've talked about. What was your child doing? Where was your child? Who was caring for your child at that time? You know, if it is grandma and he's always biting with grandma, why is that? And that could just be because they could get away with murder. Yeah. And, you know, they can push boundaries there. So it's just looking at all of that. So it's every nursery will try and support you and your child with the biting period, and it is only a period. I've
gone through it within a few months. It seemed to come and then go. You know, and now he doesn't do it, and he hasn't done it since.
Yeah.
So it just
and it's just a phase. It is a passing phase, and you know it's. The parents feel worse. They are absolutely mortified, and that's what we do. We do support parents, and every good nursery will have a behaviour policy in place. So you should speak to your nursery and find out how they can support you and how they can support your child with this phase.
Is there a kind of age range that this tends to happen, or could it be at any sort of age, and from baby to toddler?
It's usually by the time they're 3, they've grown out of it because they've got that communication. Then it's that period of sort of
frustration.
That seems to be like that's
yeah.
the key theme that comes through in a lot of things is the frustration.
It goes with the temper tantrum toddlers we were talking about before. You know, it's a frustrating age.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden the body is now able to do all these things. You know, it can walk, it can run, it can, you know, and then sometimes there's a bit of a lag there in sort of the emotional, you know, but it comes, you know, you will get through it. And if you're not, and the child is going on biting, then you need to speak to your health visitor and go and see your GP and actually say, you know, it's going on longer. You know, and there is good material out there and lots of advice from your own health visitor around, you know, how to deal with this. We've just got a few more tips about what you should do when your toddler does when your toddler does bite. What you should do.
Let's put these into action.
So first of all, just try and keep your own feelings in check. You might feel frustrated, annoyed, embarrassed and worried, but again, just keep your own feelings in check. It's the child we've got to focus on here, not how you're feeling. And you know, at nursery especially, we do keep it confidential. It is confidential. So if your child has bitten somebody else, we wouldn't tell the other parents that it was your child. It is all confidential. So you don't have to think that everybody's talking about you in the nursery. They're not doing it. We work with you on that, and it's a very confidential, it's a very sensitive situation, and it's, you know, we need to support the parents and the child through that.
Of course.
Number 2 is be consistent, but in a firm and matter-of-fact voice. Just say, no biting, biting hurts, and keep your response short, simple and clear. Giving them too much attention, that might be what they want. Your response is just to be short and sharp, and that's it. You either remove them from the situation, you distract them with something else, you know, but short, sharp, move on.
You've mentioned that before, and I know I put into place more patient, more consistent since I spoke to you last, and it does work. It does work. You know, keep your commands simple, and Noah understands it better.
Yes, because they respond to that. That's what they learn. Yeah.
It's the language, development of the language. If you give too much information,
boggles.
They can't.
But again, if you go on for 20 minutes to them about this biting, they've had your attention for a whole 20 minutes, solely your attention, and it's like, wow, I can do this again. And I've got another 20 minutes. You know, it's. So number 3, turn your attention to the child that has been bitten. So if you are there, you know, give them the fuss, give them the attention. You're clearly communicating then to your child that biting does not result in more attention for them. You know, your concern goes to the other child. And
that other child has been hurt and will need the comfort and the attention, and that's important.
Definitely.
So number 4 is, if your child is verbal, sit down and talk with them about the appropriate responses they could use next time. So, you know, why did you bite him? Oh, because I wanted that book. Well, next time, do you think if we ask for it, then we might be able to share it? Or, you know, it's that finding out why they've bitten and then giving them an appropriate response for next time they want something.
Again, very simple. Keep it very, very simple. Yeah.
And the last one is help the child to move on. So the toddler who bit and the child who was hurt shouldn't be made to play with one another unless they want to.
Okay.
You know, it's all right getting them to say sorry, and that's it. But it's not worth. Right, now go and play with them. Now sit there and play, because you're just gonna forcing the situation, and again, the biting could reoccur. So say the sorries and help them both move on.
Really useful. Really is useful, because it could be quite easy just to go, just go and play and you know, get on with it, and then it happens again.
I think, you know, when you ask me about does it happen frequently, because all our staff on the behaviour, we all practice this. So actually, I would say that no, it's not, because it's handled in this way at Sunbeams. I won't say it never happens, but they're few and far between. They're very rare, because the staff are all very highly trained and know what the cues to look for. But again, working with the parents, so, you know, it's understanding the child and the parent, and you know, that's what we kind of you know, that's what we're striving to do.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time once again. It's so good to be able to put things to you that I've experienced myself. So Shelley, Kate from Sunbeams Day Nursery, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.